this example, we are going to look at how to add behaviors to objects. If you have used Polygon V1, you're going to find this is pretty much the same way. And by behavior, I should clarify, this is not going to be crowd behaviors, crowd agent behaviors, or complicated things. We're going to start from the very basics, just to get a sense of how to get the basics working. Learn to walk before learning how to run. So we are looking at the examples, and we are going to load object following the cursor. And if you load the scene, that's what you get. You get an object following the cursor. So I'm going to pause the scene because the scene needs to be playing for that to happen. Let me just activate the recording feed so you can see the hotkey that I press in, which will display in that area. And this is the scene that this creates. So I'm still going to go back up, hide the box, and let's look at this example. So we still have the sphere that is following my cursor wherever my cursor goes, except if I go here, because the cursor is not followed when I hover over those. This is a limit of the editor, but if you are full screen, you can see that this works all over the screen. And I go back. So how does that work? It works because of this actor node, which is, the actor node is really the starting point to add behaviors to object. Everything else in that scene is really just to have a light, which creates shadow, so you have a better sense of where the object is, a plane, a material on the object, so that the object is visible. But I could really press 1 on that node and only display those two objects, and press play, and the sphere would follow my cursor. So the core of the example is really just those two nodes. So here we create a sphere, and I mean, that could be a box, a tube, whatever, and it would follow my cursor. We have a sphere because it looks a little nicer if you like spheres. And the actor node, how does it work? So again, we have this icon on the left, which shows that the actor node is a node that contains other nodes. So we can press W to go inside, and we can see what it contains. And actor nodes function with trigger. A trigger is basically going to define when a function or a behavior is going to run. In that case, we have the onTick, which means it will run on every tick, which means in game jargon, it means on every frame. So every frame, this trigger will fire, and it will call setObjectPosition. SetObjectPosition will change the position of the object that we are applying it onto. And that position is defined by those nodes. So I could say, hey, position is going to be 0, 0. If I press, the object will go to 0, 0. I can say, let's say the value that is not crazy, press 1, I play, and it will go to 1 in X. I press 0, and it will go back to that position. But we can pipe nodes into that position, and those nodes basically are cursor ray, a plane, and where that ray intersects the plane. Cursor ray is basically the ray behind my cursor. So if my cursor is here, it will shoot a cursor from the camera I'm looking at through the cursor, and that will go wherever I am looking. Then we have a plane. The plane has a normal of 0, 1, 0, which is basically the horizontal plane, and it is slightly below the horizon. And then, so whenever I'm looking at the horizon plane, when that ray hits the plane is where the sphere is going to go. And this is what allows me to move that sphere on that plane. I can change a few more things on that. I can change a lerp. A lerp is basically a function that says how quickly am I going to reach the value that I'm being given. I can put it to a much lower value, and you can see that the sphere is not going to follow my cursor very fast. There will be a delay. I can go even slower, and it will slowly come and affect this. So that is the very basics on how you add behaviors to object, and this is this context. And I probably should clarify what a context is at this stage. So when we are here, we are in a geo context, a geometry context, where all the nodes that we can create are specialized to handle geometry or to create geometry. Whereas if we go inside an actor node, we are in a different context. The nodes here are specialized in creating code or creating functions. So for instance, the onTick node, I can press tab to have the tab menu, and I can have the onTick here. If I press tab here, I will not have the onTick here. I will have different nodes. For instance, if I go inside an actor, I do not have a box. Well, I do have box, which are different types of box, which are functions that do not generate geometry. But basically, those functions, those nodes are going to create all sorts of functions which allow me to tweak the behaviors that we see here. So yes, this is the basics. There are a lot more to cover about adding, generating behaviors, but that should give you a starting point.